Hello, everybody. This is Paul Tinkle, and this week we're going to be talking about the Ed Murphey Classic, which is taking place July 11th and 12th in Memphis. And what's it all about? Track and field. We have a lot to cover, and I can't wait to tell you all the things that I know about Eddie Murphey and Ed Murphey.
Paul, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's just a really wonderful thing to be up here in this neck of the woods. My family's from Brownsville, and I've got friends in Humboldt and all over this place. I remember my dad back in the day used to go to Jackson, Tennessee. They had the Jackson Supper Club back in the 50s.
Let me start for just a couple of moments. What are you doing here today?
You know, Paul, you've been such a kind friends with Jana Fuqua, to give me this opportunity to preach what we're doing and the great things we're doing in Memphis and Shelby County and for the West Tennessee. And we're also doing things for the pro athletes, not only in the United States, from all over around the world.
What is it that you're doing?
So can I just go back to the very beginning, this whole thing, because it's kind of a God wink, Paul, as we've talked about in the past. But my dad we lived in Memphis. He lived in Memphis, Tennessee, went to Treadwell. And then my grandfather moved to Brownsville, Tennessee to become the general manager or the manager of the Coca-Cola plant, bottling plant up there in Brownsville. And he worked there for 45 years for Mr. Pigeon. And so he graduated from Brownsville, Haywood County High School, and went to the University of Tennessee. And he was an SA with Charles Haynes and all the boys from Brownsville. And when he was an SA, they had 2 spots on the basketball team to where he could be a water boy. And so Dad took one of those spots. And the track coach, Coach Sines, happened to be also the track coach, basketball coach and track coach. And so Dad one day said, "Hey, Coach, do you care if I come out for the track team?" And Coach Sines looked at him and he said, "Son, you can come out for the team, just don't get in the way." and Paul, he actually said that when he was inducted in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame in 2004.
So your dad has all kinds of records, and not the type that we put a needle on. But let's talk about your daddy here, and I'd like to hear more about it.
Absolutely. But, you know, Dad was a great guy. We all have our faults, but I tell you what, I love that man, and I didn't know a lot about what all he did, but, you know, he never ran track at Haywood County High School. He'd never run. So when he got up to the University of Tennessee, he just wanted to try something different. And he had a lot of talent. He never lost in the mile, 3-time SEC champion. First, he captained their first SEC cross-country championship in 1956. I mean, I'm still really good friends with a couple of the men that are still involved in that bond that they created together. You know, Dad was a captain, always stayed the captain, and those guys are mentoring me as I go through this process. What we're going to talk to our people out here in the listening audience about, what we're doing to help raise the profile of track and field. But my dad, when he graduated in the late 50s, Coach Rowe asked him if we wanted to have the Ed Murphey Award. So since 1965, the most outstanding track athlete at the University of Tennessee is called the Ed Murphey Award. And so when my dad passed away in 2014, the last guy that he met was a kid named Christian Coleman. And Christian Coleman went on to be the last guy to beat Usain Bolt. And so we gave that award to Christian. That's kind of the level of the athlete that the University of Tennessee spits out on the track and field.
Track and field. Let me dumb it down just a little bit for some of our listeners, and not ugly. But what is track and what is field? What is this all about?
Absolutely. So you have track events, which you're going to be 100, 200, 400, 800 meter, 1500. Even a marathon could be probably called a track because it's run on a track or it's run outside. But then you have field events. So you have the javelin, you have the pole vault, you have the all the different events, triple jump, long jump, all the things that you can do.
And when we're talking about people that love to run, these are young people that we're talking about specifically. So what's the age group for track? I mean, I've seen kids that were 3 years old that are getting out on the track for the very first time, or 4 or 5 or 6, as we have in Dresden and Westview and some other schools around the area. Absolutely.
As we go through this and learn a little bit more about it, but we started the Murphey Track Club in Memphis 3 years ago, and we had 35 kids the first year, and this year we have 285 kids in the Murphey Track Club, and we have kids as young as 4 years old on our track team.
Ed, now take me back to your dad for just a couple of moments. Your father has left an indelible mark on track and field in Tennessee. Tell me more about that.
You know, it really all started. My dad was buddies with a guy named Mike Cody, who was a lawyer. He was actually Martin Luther King's lawyer. He was one of the younger kids at Birch Porter and Johnson, and he basically called me one day in 2017. Dad died in 2014. He said, "Eddie, I want to take you to lunch with a couple of his buddies." And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Well, we want to honor your dad." And I said, "Absolutely, I'll be there." So we went to lunch, and he said, "Eddie, nobody's ever broken the 4-minute barrier," and my dad was a miler. Nobody in Shelby County. It's crazy. You would think in 2017 that nobody at the University of Memphis or somebody come in and compete on that track, or at Rhodes College, nobody ever broken the 4-minute barrier in Memphis, Tennessee. And he goes, "We want to bring in some Olympians and put it around a hoka meet at Christian Brothers High School." And he goes, "We want to name it the Ed Murphey Mile." And he said, and I said, "Absolutely. I'd love to be involved, whatever it takes." He said, "Can you help me raise $12,000 in 3 weeks to bring these athletes in?" I said, "Absolutely." So it was really neat. We brought in 12 men, and we actually brought in some women for the 1,500. We brought 12 women in, and we put it on around a hoka meet at Christian Brothers High School. And Nick Dwyer at Christian Brothers High School does such a great job. There's a running company called Hoka, and Hoka gives money to 3 meets, high school meets, throughout the year around the country. You can imagine every city is trying to clamor for that, and Nick got the money. And so we put it on around this Hoka track meet, and it was 2,000 middle school and high schoolers running, and we brought in these Olympians, and it was just a huge spectacle. And we had 3 of the 12 men broke it, and the guy broke the 4-minute barrier, and the guy that finished in 4th ran a 4.00.01. And so we ended up having a great time. They all came back over to my house afterwards. It was probably 45 kids, you know, the boys and the girls, and then their boyfriends or girlfriends or parents. And we cooked burgers, and we had the best time. And they said, "Where should I go after this?" And we were all like going, "Well, go to Rail Garden, go down to Beale Street, but end up at Rayford's if you really want to have a late night." And that's a late night place in Memphis where you can play the drums, and all they serve is 20-ounce beers, and you can have a really good time. And so they did, and as fate would have it, I work at First Tennessee Bank, and I've been there since 1986. And I was going to Pittsburgh on business the next morning, and I had one of those dreadful 6 a.m. flights out of Memphis International. And I'm looking down the hallway, and I'm looking for a cup of coffee, and there's Eric Avaya and Craig Ingalls, 2 of the guys that broke the 4-minute barrier, and they hadn't been to bed. They basically went to Rayford's, had a great time. They're walking down the hallway, and they said, "Hey, Mr. Murphy, we've been talking about Memphis all night." He goes, and this is where it gets really interesting, Paul. They said, "Would you put on another meet for us? Because there's very few track meets in the United States for the professional athlete." And I looked at him, I was kind of dumbfounded, but I said, "I'll absolutely look into it." And I went back to Mike Cody and Phil Taylor and all my dad's friends, and they're in their 80s. They had no bandwidth, but the guys that ran the track meet that I didn't even know who they were, Max Paquette, Nick Dwyer, who we talked about, some of these guys had they had so much knowledge of the sport. And Max Paquette, who's the executive director of the Ed Murphey Classic, which is the 9th year of, his wife was actually an Olympic hopeful. And so he had expertise, knew all these people. And so we started a meet because the pros needed it. And here we are, year 9, and we made it through. We were only like 3 or 4 meets that made it through COVID. We were out in the parking lot at CBHS, and we had our masks on, but these athletes needed a place to run. So we've become I think really what you would call it is athlete first. We care about the athlete. I mean, I ran at UT up there for a whole 6 months, and I wasn't very good, but good enough to last. But I know what it takes to be the dedication these guys do, and I get it. And just to give them an opportunity to provide them to shine in the United States is something that was too hard to pass up.
If you've just joined us, we're talking about the Ed Murphey Classic, which is taking place here in a couple of weeks. Given the date, if you will, it is coming right on top of us here in July. I mean,
the date's July 11th and 12th. Yeah. So we're really, really close on this. We'll be at the pole vaults on Beale Street on the 11th, and July 12th we'll be at the University of Memphis track.
Now, we got a lot to talk about in a short period of time, but I'm really fascinated by how many professional athletes that have come from all over, everywhere, that are coming to Memphis to run. Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we started, and this is year 9. We started with just a very few athletes, but we kept going. And the pro athlete really, really loves competing in the United States and having an opportunity to do this. And so, year 9, We have 600 professional athletes from 44 different countries and over 70 Olympians signed up to compete in Memphis.
Let me see if we can equate this to baseball, okay, or football. So we're talking about the people that are terrifically and incredibly, they are professionals at what they do, much like a baseball player or a football player, soccer, or whomever it happens to be. And we have them here in West Tennessee, in Memphis, coming up here in just a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. It's really kind of blows my mind here, but you know, it's really one of those things where if you just keep doing the right thing, and the athletes love what we're doing here in Memphis, they're coming, and we put on a good show, and we give them a platform for we can lift them up. You know, we put them on the radio, we put them on TV, because 2 years ago, before the Olympics, everything's kind of weird with the Paris Olympics last year, but if you go back to 2023, we finished 5th in the United States and 25th in the world. So if you do that math on that, most of the great track meets around the world are not in the United States. We only have one, the Prefontaine Classic, which is the week before our meet this year. That's the only Diamond League meet in the United States. The rest of them are around the world.
How do you get to be able to learn how to run in a professional meet? And I know you have to start them as early as whatever that age is, and then they get the opportunities to participate perhaps in their own school. They may have a track meet, but if they don't, what do they do? Where do they go? How can they express themselves?
Absolutely. Well, there's a gaping hole there, and that's where when we started this meet and we started raising all this money, and I've got friends in Memphis that care about Memphis and care about the problems that Memphis is having, and we're trying to fix those problems. And so 3 years ago, we started the Murphy Track Club. And what we do is we provide free track and field to kids in the inner city of Memphis. And so 3 years ago, we started with 60 kids. We're up to 285 kids this year that are running for us. And we provide shoes, we provide uniforms, coaching. The only people that make money, we pay coaches. We started with 4 coaches in the inner city area of Memphis 3 years ago. And we have 12 coaches on our team this year, because as we grow, we need great coaches to mentor our kids. And I work at First Horizon Bank. We've started to try to work with implementing financial literacy into our programs while these kids are here. Thursday night, Outback Steakhouse is going to be at Cordova High School feeding our kids burgers. The community cares. You know, what I love about like Brownsville, where I grew up quite a bit up there with my grandparents, is communities around here, you know, y'all care. You get around your football teams, your high school teams, but you know, there's a gaping hole in the city of Memphis, which I'm just learning, because it wasn't like I grew up wanting to be a head of a pro track meet, you know, but what I'm learning is that the middle school kids, and you go to school in Shelby County, they don't even have middle school cross country. They don't even offer it. So we're going to try to keep growing our nonprofit, raise more money so that not only we have a Murphy Track Club in the summer, but we're going to have a a cross-country program in the fall. And we're basically I've been mentored by Knoxville Youth Athletics. I still have quite a bit of ties up there at UT. And I've learned these guys, what they do is that they will have coaches at each school, and they'll all put one training program for all those coaches to train those kids at that school during the week. And then if there's a track meet, they all come around under the KY umbrella and run together. So that's kind of what, you know, we're just not reinventing the wheel. We're just taking the wheel that's already been there, put our spin on it, learn what the city of Memphis needs, or Brownsville, or wherever we're going to be as we continue to grow these track programs, and just fill a void.
Do you find many football players also running track?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, I'll tell you, so Dwayne Ross is the head track coach at the University of Tennessee. He's been there for 3 or 4 years now. And we had this conversation when we were talking, and he goes, Ed, you know, when I think he was from North Carolina. He came from North Carolina A&T, but he told me a great story that's kept with me forever. And he goes, you know, my coach, I was a football player. And he goes, you don't have track speed, you have football speed. and he goes, I want you to throw the shot put. And so he was throwing the shot at his school in North Carolina. But he said nobody was watching him. And he went up in the stands, and his cousin was running the 100 meters. And all the girls were screaming, oh, go, go, go. And he goes, nobody's watching me the shot. He goes, Coach, I want to run. And the only thing there left was 110 hurdles for the meet that day. And he went and he won it.
Wow.
And he went on to the Olympics.
Wow.
He was an Olympian. So, there's track speed and there's football speed, but they all go hand in hand.
You have talked a little bit about this, but you mentioned a moment ago some of the athletes, the professionals that'll be in here. What do we look for? Who do we look for? We, as you know, we get a little TV out of it.
Absolutely. My brain's kind of going kind of fast right through here, Paul, because it's getting right here because July 11th is right around the corner. But we're as I'd like to say is in Brownsville, we're playing in some high cotton. Mm-hmm. We just found out this week that Sydney McLaughlin, she was coming, but she's going to go to the Prefontaine. There's a lot of crazy things going on in sports. Michael Johnson had this Grand Prix, and he got $20 million to put on this pro circuit, and then he spent the money frivolously, and so they had to close it down early. But that track meet was going to be in L.A. 2 weeks before our meet. They canceled that, so that's going to help us to get a lot of great athletes in. But some of the top athletes in the world, Sydney McLaughlin, Gabby Thomas, she was coming, but she's not going to come now. We're year 9, Paul, and we raise money. We started with $12,000, like I told you. 2 years ago, when we finished 25th in the world, we raised $330,000, and we're a nonprofit, and we're giving 40% of that away to back to the inner city kids to help lift that need. This year, last year we raised $550,000. I believe we're going to break $700,000 this year. But to me, it's really hard if I go to an elementary or middle or high school track meet and I look around and no kid didn't have shoes. It's hard for me to balance not giving the need there at the Murphy Track Club or pay these pros. We just need to raise more money for appearance fees. But we have 70 plus Olympians that'll be here. We're scratching the surface to get in there with all the greats, and we have a lot of greats that are coming. We're just missing out on some of the world record holders, but we're right there.
Yeah, let me punctuate just a bit. We're not talking about people that maybe nobody knows who they are. These are bona fide rock stars.
Absolutely, bona fide. It'd be like Michael Jordan of track and field.
Yeah, I want to follow up here on a couple of things. So how do you get children to get involved in track and field?
That's a great story, Paul. And it's really, so, my dad, borrowed money at 16%. I graduated from MUS in 1981. So in the 70s, all the older people out there can understand how old it was. And Dad I got to go to the Memphis University School where I graduated from. And he said, son, I want you to be really nice to everybody because you may work for him one day. And, you got Fred Smith, who just passed away, went there, Avern Fogelman, Pitt Hyde, AutoZone, all these great people. And, so I've just continued to work really hard to keep pushing the needle and make things better.
Now, how do you get the kids to get involved?
So what we did was, Billy Orgel, was a buddy of mine. He runs Tower Ventures, and he went to MUS. We sat next to each other for 3 years on Friday Chapel. And, Billy, loves Memphis, and he gave his time and actually became part of the Memphis Shelby County School Board, and he ran it for 4 years. And so when all this was going down and these light bulbs are going off in my head, Paul, about what we could do to make things better, I called Billy, and I said, Billy, who in the Shelby County school system can I reach that cares about kids, and I don't get any politics, I just want to straight shooter? And he gave me a lady's name, India Weaver. He's the athletic director at Memphis Shelby County Schools, and we're year 9. And so basically she has been amazing. She knows what we're doing because a lot of people, look, in Memphis with the politics down there, when you say free, a lot of people are very, very skeptical. When you're going into the African American community and a white guy walks in and they go, I want to give stuff to you free. They're all like going, what are you really doing? But India gets it. She knows what we're doing. She's head of everybody. The crazy thing, Paul, is not only do we have the Murphy Track Club, but Memphis Shelby County School Systems for decades has put on free summer programs for the Memphis Shelby County schools. football, basketball, baseball, cheerleading. They just started golf. They'd never done track. And so 3 years ago, we started the Memphis Shelby County Schools track program. It's a week-long, intense, 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. And we started with, she told me, but look, we had 85 kids the first year. She said that's one of the biggest camps we've ever had for a first year. And we're in year 3. And this year we had 125 kids for a whole week. And what we do is I brought in Olympians to speak to them. Mm-hmm. We had 2 Olympians in this year. It was amazing. And we bring in brown skin yoga give them therapy for some of the trauma they may have gone through their life, their home life, or COVID. So things that just anything we can do to help lift them up. And it takes time, as you know, Paul, to build something. If you want to, and we're not going anywhere, hopefully, God willing. We just build it slowly and build it up and have great roots and keep giving these kids opportunities just by getting on TVs and radio stations, letting people know, come out and try this.
The circle is relatively large in West Tennessee. So we have people in Dresden who have made it to the state and got a state champion there. And we also have, of course, Westview, Union City. We've got and Humboldt and several of these track and field competitors, girls and boys. Can they come and participate? Can we bring people from West Tennessee into Shelby County to be able to see, okay, this is what this is about. I want to be a piece of it.
Absolutely. That's why I'm here too, Paul, because like I told you, my dad grew up in Brownsville, and we started a track program last year in Brownsville in the summer. Then Dave Rogers, great man, what an amazing man. He passed away suddenly of a heart attack, and so it's kind of thrown us back a step there as they regroup and try to find and get that culture that David created and keep that going. But, it's interesting. I'm always asking people if they want to be involved. And I've had people from Munford and from Brighton call me on the phone and say, hey, I want to put on a Murphy Track Club in Brighton or in Munford, like you're trying to do in Brownsville, and we're in Cordova. So there's no reason why we can't have these everywhere, all over the West Tennessee.
I was looking at some of the notes that I had pulled off of the Ed Murphey, and I looked at it, and I went back to the 2005, big deal for you folks. He was inducted into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, and there were some other guys that went into that. And I got 2 or 3 of these guys here that are really, really Bill Justice, for example. I mean, Haywood Harris. I can go on here.
Richmond Flowers.
You can take it anywhere you want to go. You have Willie Galt that has been in there. And a lot of these names, we catch them from football or whatever it happens to be. In our world today, how do we get kids to want to take the next step?
Opportunity. They don't know what they don't know. And if we just give them an opportunity, they can shine. That's what we're here. This is all about opportunity for these kids. We just give them something to do, as my sister Lisa said, keep our kids on the right track.
Mm-hmm. A lot of kids don't have, as you mentioned earlier, they don't have shoes, they don't have uniforms, those kinds of things. But when they put that uniform on, or those new shoes on, or those new socks on, or maybe the whatever it happens to be that they're wearing, that makes everybody the same. There's no question that everybody is simply all about one thing, and that is this program.
Absolutely. It's like Dave Rogers, rest his soul. I called Dave up. We had like $2,000 in 2018 that we had left over, and we didn't have a nonprofit. We didn't run a nonprofit. And I called Dave and said, what do you need? And he goes, you know what? I need a new tent, 10 by 20 tent with the Haywood County logo on it. I said, absolutely. So we got him one. And now in the city of Memphis, we have 26 tents flying around when I talked to Indy, I said, let's start at the most needy. Let's work our way up. And we got those tents flying around, and pretty soon we're going to need to figure out something else, what we're going to want to do. It's going to be hurdles, or I don't know, but that's going to be a great problem to have. We keep finding voids we can fill.
Let me acknowledge this. If you get a second, Google Ed Murphey, Murphey, Ed Murphey. It all started because this man's father that we have here on the radio today is the legacy that you have taken and done more than what I think your father would ever believe, the insurmountable that this has taken place.
Absolutely. You never know when something's going to come in front of you that's going to hit your heartstring and pull on it, and you just keep pulling and you dig, and here we are.
I think the other thing that before we leave here is to remind people that are right here in these communities that we live in, and that is you can do anything you want to, and whether it be in track or whether it be in some high school sports or whatever. But I think you're real, and if you'll allow me to jump into your brain a little bit, but I think you want kids to get involved in the good stuff, not the other stuff that we're talking about.
Absolutely. That's really why we're here. You know, we just have a bigger opportunity in this area of the country maybe than most, and it's a wonderful thing.
So if we talk about this weekend that is coming up July 11th and 12th, so take just a moment and tell folks where they need to go to watch, to see, or maybe even to participate.
Absolutely. So the Ed Murphey Classic is July 11th and July 12th. We'll be putting the pole vault on Beale Street. We actually have our own runway that we put down, and actually that pole vault is a Mondo track. So if they want to break the world record or American record, they can break it right there. And that's going to start. We actually have a Murphy Mile down there. We started last year, so we have a community mile where kids, if you're a avid runner and want to come run the cobblestone steps of around FedEx Forum and Beale Street, come on down, and then we'll have a pro meet, the Pro Mile. And then right after that, we'll start the men's and women's pole vault, and that'll last till 10, 11 o'clock. The kids will be going over 19 feet. And last year, we had the silver medalist in the pole vault, and this year we're going to have some great women. Clearly, I'm not sure exactly where we stand right now, but we'll have at least 3 or 4 from the top 10 in the world that'll be here. And then the next day at the University of Memphis track, we're going to have a really long day. We put on a kids meet in the morning. So if any kids out there want to come, you can go to edmurpheyclassic.com and you can sign up for the kids meet. And then we're going to put on 2 different meets this year. We have 600 kids this year. We're actually growing it bigger this year because we are a week after the Prefontaine Classic, but we're also 2.5 weeks before the USA Championships. And so as crazy as this sounds, Paul, like it goes back to what we were talking about, the pro athletes, some of them are a tenth of a second away from qualifying for the USA Championships. Some of them are maybe a quarter of a second. You know, they're right there, and there's very few track meets left in the United States. And so we got all these phone calls and all these emails and texts. Hey, could you put on a meet for me? Because we only have 9 lanes, and for the best of the best. But there's some kids that want to qualify for the USA Championships. They may not ever make it, but they can tell their grandchildren, I qualified for the USA's. So we're going to put on an F meet, World Athletics, and they're actually going to pay their own way. We're not going to pay for the hotels, not going to pay for their flights. They're going to come in just for an opportunity to compete. And then we'll have our pro meet, and that night at the University of Memphis, it's going to be live streamed on YouTube TV. Last year we had 4.5 million viewers on YouTube and another 1.1 million on Puma. So come on out. It's going to be a fun time. We'll have bouncy castles for the kids, and it's just lift this whole area of the country up.
And this is all located in what direction, Memphis?
So it's on their University of Memphis South Campus. It's right there near Audubon Park. Ed Murphey Classic, and we'll have directions on there for you. But come on in; it'll be a sight. We'll be some amazing records. I think we'll probably break every record but 2 this year. We're now part of the USA Track and Field. I don't think I mentioned that to you. So this is a wonderful thing. USA Track and Field's endorsed us for the last 6 years. Now they're sponsoring us. So they are coming in. They gave money to Portland, Los Angeles, and Memphis, Tennessee. And so that really ratchets our meet up quite a bit to be having something like that. And the growth for the future for us with the 2028 LA Olympics coming, I think our meet's just going to get bigger and bigger every year.
Hope you've enjoyed our program today. Eddie Murphey is our guest, and he oversees the Ed Murphey Classic. It's happening July 11th and 12th. Hope you can be able to make it. Paul Tinkle, pre-recorded. Thanks for listening, everybody, to this week's 30 Minutes program.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.